Welcome to the Sunday morning worship service of DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church in Naperville, Illinois for June 18th, 2023. I am Caroline Bailey, a member of your Board of Trustees. We are glad that you are here, whether you are present in the sanctuary this morning or watching remotely. It is so good to be together. We welcome you to our church and invite you to get to know us better after the service. As Unitarian Universalists, we hold that there are many paths to truth and meaning, and we support one another on our spiritual and religious journeys while holding ourselves in covenant. The rich liberal legacy of Unitarian Universalism is rooted in our faith's 7 principles. These principles guide our faithful actions as we work to transform the world to a more just and equitable place. You may find these principles listed on our website or on the wall in our social hall. Whoever you are, wherever you are on life's journey, and wherever you are in the world, you are welcome here. I don't think we have any other announcements, okay? And we invite you to turn to your neighbor and greet them, someone you didn't come with today, and greet them with a wave or a good morning greeting.
The prelude you just heard was written by the son of a slave in times of slavery. And so we light this chalice in remembrance of the indignities of slavery, and to honor the souls of every man, woman, and child who was forced to suffer. We light this chalice to acknowledge the indescribable strength it must have taken to keep that light of hope alive in each enslaved person's heart. We light this chalice to celebrate the heroes who continue to shine their own lights and to serve for a more just and loving world. On this Father's Day, on this eve of Juneteenth, we welcome you, beloved community. We come together because we are a congregation that stands for what is right. We are people who care. And that shows in the very fact that you are here today. When it is so sunny and lovely outside, you are here as a community, a beloved community, held together by love, by faith, family, and friendship. Your presence, your lovely faces, your beautiful hearts means hope. And hope is exactly what our world needs right now. Come, let us build a land where, as one of today's hymns so beautifully says, justice shall roll down like waters and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come, let us worship together.
Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing verses 1 and 2 of hymn number 121, We'll Build a Land. The words will be projected.
As Reverend Mandy so beautifully says, each week we share our joys and our sorrows together. And as our first announcement, I'd like to wish everyone present here today and at home a very happy Father's Day. For our flower dedication today, they're from Pat Clancy, who arranged the flowers with her own beautiful hands. She says, the flowers are dedicated to all of our church's fathers for all they do for their families. And a special thanks to my own father, Ray Clancy, who helped me through good times and bad. From Kay Richards, happy Father's Day to all dads. Tomorrow, June 19th, is Kay Richards and Mark Ailes' 41st wedding anniversary. Happy anniversary. From Barb Ross, for my daughter, who gave birth to a 3-pound son 2 months prematurely while out of town. Our congratulations, Barb, and our prayers that this child may live a happy, beautiful life. We'd also like to welcome a very special guest who is here with us today, Mr. Patrick Watson. Can you kindly stand for a moment? Patrick Watson is the president of the NAACP of DuPage County, who has so kindly We are so grateful that you have graced us with your presence this morning. At the end of our service, he'll be sharing some very special words of his own. Afterwards, he will be available to talk with you more about the NAACP's very important work and to help sign you up, if you'd like, to become a member in honor of Juneteenth. I myself will become a member later this morning. Thank you for coming today. I'd also like to warmly recognize all of you who are wearing red today in honor of Juneteenth. It's beautiful to see you. Thank you for remembering our newest national holiday in this way. And if you're not wearing it today, tomorrow is Juneteenth, so you can wear red. I'd like to offer a prayer as we begin our services. Creator of all that is, mother, father, friend, in whichever way we see you, you have created the love in our hearts. You have fortified us with relationships that bring meaning and hope. You have endowed us with wisdom that separates right from wrong. Grant us today deeper connections to each other, to our communities, and the people of all backgrounds, genders, races, faiths, and nations of our world. Enlighten our minds with greater understanding, for we are all learners, however young, however old we may be, and through that understanding, may we become torchlights of good, bearers of hope, the reason for hearts to lighten, the bestower of smiles, however large, however small. Help bring about the change. And may we help bring about the change that we wish to see in our world. Om Shanti Shalom Salam. Amen. I'd like to invite Steve.
It is time to gather. My story today is about the grandmother of Juneteenth, Opal Lee, and what it means to be free. Happy Juneteenth Jamboree! Come and join the fun. Opal Lee waved to her great-grandson as he barreled across the park. He zipped past lines of picnic tables covered with platters of barbecue, baked beans, tomato tarts, and raspberry cobbler. And he hurried past a leaping choir draped in purple robes. And he danced a jig with cowboys playing fiddles, but they did not stop his flow. Buddy ran to the blooming tree where Opal Lee held court. Her braided hair was a silver crown. Her eyes were twinkling stars. Great granddeer, Buddy called, tell us a Juneteenth story. And Opal Lee raised her face to the sun as memories of yesteryear filled her vision. When she had been a Texas bud, like the children at her feet, Granddaddy Zach told freedom stories on his wooden porch. And as Opal Lee remembered his words, she lifted her hands and cheered. Juneteenth means freedom, and now it's story time. And then Opal Lee began. Once upon a blazing sun, black bodies were bought and sold like cattle. Black men plowed the fields, but were not allowed to own land. Black women cooked the food, but were not allowed to feast on roast and ribs from the master's table. Black children cleaned the one-room schoolhouses, but were not allowed to read or write. Earning and learning were against the law, and slavery was a thief. American slavery dragged on like a plague until January 1, 1863. And that's when President Lincoln wielded courage and raised his feathered pen. And he signed the Emancipation Proclamation with a mighty stroke. Freedom was dazzling news like a bright, starry night. However, Texas was big and many miles away from Mr. Lincoln. White masters defied his words, and black bodies remained in bondage. They plowed, they cooked, they cleaned. Freedom did not ring through Texas in 1863. It was toiling times in the Lone Star State. For 2 years, 5 months, and 18 more weary days. And then finally, joy jumped up on dancing feet in the Gulf town of Galveston. The year was 1865, and the day was June 19th, and Gordon Granger marched through Galveston with Union Army troops. And the general raised his booming voice and spoke these righteous words. The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. Singing filled the air, and happy tears rolled down like rain. And black families leaped through cotton fields and played tambourines. It was a day of jubilee, perfect for Texas barbecue, watermelon, and sweet potato pie, delicious delights they had been denied during servitude. Opal Lee told the children, remember my words for safekeeping. Remember what I say. Juneteenth is bigger than Texas. Singing or dancing bands. Juneteenth is freedom rising. And freedom is for everyone. Juneteenth is you and me. And as the children clapped and cheered, Buddy tugged her sleeve. Great granddeer, he called. What was Juneteenth like when you were a kid? Opal Lee unwrapped another story. Blacks and whites lived separately when I was a child. Jim Crow signs littered old Fort Worth in every public place. Black families were banned from Forest Park Zoo except one day of the year. On Juneteenth, we could picnic, party, and ride the Ferris wheel. I hated that zoo, but I loved it too. The birdhouse was my favorite. Buddy groaned and shook his head. The old days don't sound good. Good and bad work together like the sun and rain. And I spent good days on my granddaddy's porch reading poetry books, and his farm was my playground, and I ran across the fields and climbed the tallest oak. Some memories are chocolate sweet, but some memories cut and bruise. And my saddest season started on Juneteenth Day, 1939. An angry mob with flaming sticks burned my family's brand new house. Their broken minds and evil hearts were so afraid of black progress. The police made no arrests, and my family moved away. And yet, the embers burn. That fire still lives in me. I learned a big lesson that Juneteenth day. Freedom is a golden coin. Struggle makes it shine. And no matter how long it takes for freedom to stretch across the land, I will keep on teaching, I will keep on reaching, I will keep on walking, and I will keep on talking. I will raise my voice on the prairie and the mountaintops until freedom rings. And the children lifted their hands in praise. Freedom, hope, and joy divine. Juneteenth means it's freedom time. And Opal Lee winked and chuckled. I think now it's time for barbecue, strawberry cake, and red Juneteenth punch. Glory, 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 Buddy cheered and waved his hands. And when he bounced up to leave, Opal Lee hugged him tightly. Then, just like birds in flight, all the children flocked into her arms, and Opal Lee studied their shining faces. As the children dashed away, she marveled at the bright future. She rested against the blooming tree and whispered into the wind, "Remember my words for safekeeping. Remember what I say. Freedom is for everyone. Juneteenth is you and me." Called the grandmother of Juneteenth, Opal Lee led a movement to make Juneteenth a national holiday. From 2016 to 2020, she walked across America and collected more than 1.5 million signatures for her petition to the U.S. Congress. It was a journey complete with rejection and disappointments. Nothing stopped her. Opal continued her walk, and when she was 94 years old, President Joe Biden signed legislation to make Juneteenth a national holiday, commemorating the end of American slavery. Opal Lee's constant reminder is wise advice. None of us are free until we're all free, and we aren't free yet. It is now time for the young kids to go to the religious education class. Any of the junior high or older kids, if they would like to be classroom helpers, they may join us also. Let's sing to the children.
And now please rise again in body or in spirit and join us in singing verses 3 and 4 of hymn number 121, We'll Build a Land. And once again, the words will be projected.
The giving of our treasure is how we reciprocate the many gifts that we are given by this community. Your contribution supports the programs and operations of the DuPage UU Church, and giving is also how we live our values in the world. Each month, we share our offerings with an organization nominated by the congregation and selected by the Special Offerings team. During June, our special collection will benefit Youth Outlook of Naperville, nominated by the Do-Gooders Chalice Circle. Youth Outlook is the first social service agency in Illinois solely dedicated to the support of LGBTQ+ youth ages 12 to 20, offering drop-in centers for youth, parent support, and community education. Drop-in centers meet weekly and are a social setting for youth to meet other LGBTQ+ young people and talk about a variety of topics that really matter to them in a safe, supported, and celebrated space. This is a truly unique organization in our area. Participants can feel safe and supported in an environment that lets them express their feelings and be themselves, as well as have fun and be social. The offering for this church and for the work of Youth Outlook will now be gratefully received. Thank you.
Sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. Yes, I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. You used to rock me in the cradle of your arms. You said you'd hold me till the pains of life were gone. You said you'd comfort me in times like these, and now I need you, and now I need you, and you are gone. Yes, I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. Since you've gone and left me, there's been so little beauty, but I know I saw it clearly in your eyes. outside is such a cold and bitter place. Here inside I have few things that will console. And when I try to hear your voice above the storms of life, then I remember that I was told. Yes, I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. Yes, I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. I think on the things that made me feel so wonderful when I was young. I think on the things that made me laugh, made me dance, made me sing. I think on the things that made me grow into a being full of pride. Think on these things, for they are true. And I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. I thought that you were gone, but now I know you're with me. You are the voice that whispers what I need to hear. I know a please, a thank you, and a smile will take me far. I know that I am you and you are me and we are one. I know that who I am is numbered in each grain of sand. I know that I've been blessed again and blessed again and again and again. Yes, I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. Yes, I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. Shake 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 shake
Opal Lee was born in 1926. You heard her story a few minutes ago. Now we're going to tell it a little bit more. She was the great-granddaughter of a Louisiana slave living in Texas, segregated, discriminatory Jim Crow Texas. Segregated schools, segregated water fountains, segregated policies, which treated a sweet, curly-haired little girl with enormous round eyes, a smile as big as the day, and skin the radiant hue of glowing copper, as less than human. When she was 12, her family moved to a cute little house, their dream house, on cute Little Annie Street in Fort Worth, Texas. She was only 12 when 500 angry, scary, tough, ignorant bigots appeared at that cute house, screaming for blood, tearing it apart, shattering glass, destroying its cute little garden, and then burning Opal's family's American dream, Opal's home, to the ground. The reason? Her family was black and not wanted by men and women, turned animal-like in hatred for a suburban family that dared to dream. The day that Opal's home burned down happened to be on Juneteenth, 1939. You heard the story of Juneteenth a little while ago, and you know how hot it can get in the summertime. Imagine that Texas heat, where rays can beat on people's backs mercilessly, the backs of children, elderly parents, even grandparents, endlessly bending, planting, and harvesting endless crops to enrich the same person who could so easily sell your children, your mother, your father, your spouse. Imagine the dehydration under that hot Texas sun, the suffering, the deaths of loved ones whose bodies could no longer take it. People like you, praying, singing to God, somehow believing amidst the brutal truth of reality that freedom might someday be realized. In America, freedom was finally realized with the end of the Civil War. Yet still in Texas, enslaved men, women, and children were driven to plant, to bend, to harvest, to die under that hot southern sun for another 2.5 years. Another 2.5 years after everyone else had been freed. It was said that the plantation owners just wanted one more crop in the ground. Oh, maybe 2 more, or perhaps 3 more. Who cares about the human toll? Until finally, soldiers came to ensure people who had been enslaved were finally released from forced bondage 2.5 and a half years later. That day, when horror finally turned to hope, was June 19th, 1865, Juneteenth, the day of freedom. So we return now to the story of Opal Lee, the little girl whose home was so brutally torched, grew up, becoming an educator and a mother, before retiring after a career well done and starting her own charity to support civil rights. For she saw the struggle. She felt the pain, realized that far too many people were living in poverty, unable to get the health care they needed, unable to have access to mortgages, good jobs, quality education, just treatment at the hands of the law because of their skin tone. And like Maya Angelou, there came a time when Opal Lee could no longer just smile. In his struggles, civil rights hero Nelson Mandela often recited a poem by William Ernest Henley, which said, "Beyond the place of wrath and tears looms the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul." Invictus is the name of that poem. Invictus, invincible, was Opal Lee. At the amazing age of 89, she rose and made a stand, deciding that to fight the evils of racism, she would walk clear from Texas to Washington, D.C., with the message that Juneteenth should become a national holiday. At 89 years old, Opal Lee walked. This is the map, if we can bring it up. This is the map that Opal Lee walked. It wasn't a straight line, and she stopped in many, many cities. She was walking unafraid, a retired school teacher with the heart of a lion. Opal Lee walked, and others joined her, until she had collected over 1.5 million signatures to present to the halls of Congress. Crazy, some might have said. How crazy, this tender age woman setting forth on such a mission to walk clear across the United States. Crazy, yes, crazy, like the greatest of change makers who rise for what they believe in, find strength in the face of oppression, and become heroes, even at the age of 89. She was only a retired school teacher, some may say, but she believed. She believed in the flame of her own innate strength in her heart, the same innate strength that can propel a mother to lift a car to save her child. The same innate strength that awaits in your own heart, that is in your own heart, waiting to be kindled by the flames of yes, I can. Oh, yes, I can. And so the campaigning continued. And so, just a few years later, Opal Lee was invited to the White House, where she was greeted by the US president, who knelt before her. Yes, President Biden knelt before this heroic great-granddaughter of a former Louisiana slave. And then President Biden signed into law an act that declared Juneteenth to be a national holiday. Here's the photo. Let's hear it for Opal Lee. In this photo, she's 92 years young. 92. Let's hear it again for Opal Lee. So this year, in the chambers of the Texas Senate, in the same state where Opal's childhood home was once burned to the ground by racist thugs, Opal Lee's portrait was hung in a place of honor. It was the first time in 43 years that a new portrait had been hung in the Texas State Chambers, a portrait of Opal Lee. Imagine that. Imagine that. Opal Lee is still alive, and she's 94 years old, or I should say 94 years young. And tomorrow she will be leading a walk on Juneteenth, for the work is far from done. Horrific injustice in this country means Black women are almost 3 times more likely to die giving birth than a white woman. People with African American names on their resumes are much less likely to be called for interviews. And that's the reason why Black people are twice as likely to be unemployed. And yet, right now, the Supreme Court is considering striking down affirmative action programs that have entitled generations of students to attend some of the nation's finest colleges and become great lights for our world. All the while, a Black person is 5 times more likely to be stopped by law enforcement than a white person, and 3 times more likely to be killed. Thus, we are witnessing the tragic, horrific deaths of good people, such as George Floyd, who was suffocated at a police officer's knee. Atatiana Jefferson, who was shot in her kitchen because her door was ajar and she was Black. Ahmaud Arbery, who was stalked and then gunned down by racist thugs because he was jogging in the wrong neighborhood These are hard stories to hear. They're even harder to say. And even harder to know that there are so many more. And I tell you this, my friends, when it all seems so awful that you think that there is nothing that can be done, that we are just too young or too old or anything in between, remember Opal Lee, a retired educator who changed our nation in her 90s. When you think we are just a church, remember this man, John Haynes Holmes, who co-founded the ACLU and the NAACP and was a Unitarian minister who saw too many rights not to try to make them right. And remember, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who spoke at the UU General Assembly, the same UU General Assembly that we know is starting, I believe, tomorrow. He spoke there about 2 years before his assassination. And he was known to have said, "There comes a time when silence is a betrayal. There comes a time when silence is a betrayal." Let us step into their shoes and say, it's time for change. And when it gets hard, and when it looks like change may never come, remember that change does come. Change has come throughout the annals of history amidst insurmountable obstacles because of people who have stood up with souls, hearts, every ounce of their being for something bigger than themselves, like we can do just now. And so let's take a stance. Let's raise our prayers to the skies and rise. Rise up. Rise up. Please stand up, all of us. Rise up with me. Stand up. And if you physically can't, that's okay. Rise with your spirit anyway. And now grasp each other's hands. Grasp your neighbor's hands, and you can move over. It's okay. We're all family under the same sky. Close your eyes for a moment. Close your eyes. It's okay. You're safe here. You might start to feel a little tingling between your hands. Close your eyes. That tingling is the electrical power of togetherness, reminding us that together we can form a great and mighty force for the power of good, for the power of change, for the power perhaps even to right the greatest of wrongs. Take a moment as you're holding each other's hands and pray your own prayer deep in your heart. Silently pray for a moment. May your good intentions make our world more just and more righteous, the way it should be. For just as Juneteenth became a national holiday because an 89-year-old lady put on her walking shoes, great change begins. Great change begins with those who rise. You may be seated. After today's services, you'll find details on how you can help fight racial injustice just outside of this chapel. near the library. As a reminder, Patrick Watson from the NAACP will also be at a table to meet you and help you to become a member if you wish, just like I will become a member today. You'll furthermore find details sent to us so kindly from the ACLU, as well as ribbons that you can wear and stickers that you can wear for yourselves, your car, your kids, your pets, anything you may wish to decorate, your water bottle. Someone said water bottle. We have stickers for that water bottle and that pet. Feel free to take those stickers, to take those details, to take the feelings in your heart from today's service with you and spread this to the world. For we together can create something better. We can create a more just world, a more loving world. May it be so. Amen.
And now once more, please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing all 4 verses of hymn number 121, We'll Build a Land.
I'd now like to invite Mr. Patrick Watson to share his words with us.
Thank you all for having me here today. I'm Patrick Watson. I'm the president of the NAACP. I want to thank you all for your hospitality here today on Father's Day and on this weekend of Juneteenth. As we reflect this weekend of Juneteenth, We can look at how far we've come. Juneteenth is now recognized as a state and federal holiday. We have finally recognized the sacrifices that so many endured for generations. But this doesn't mean that we have fixed all inequities that stem from the original American sin. You all have heard the statistics. You've heard the data. And that is exactly what the NAACP has worked to fix since its founding, what the DuPage County NAACP has worked towards since the 1960s. Whether you're concerned about economic, criminal justice, education, environmental, health, housing, or political inequities, we have committees that specifically address these issues. We work within the community, we build partnerships to fix these inequities. I will be in the hallway momentarily to talk with you about the NAACP to learn more, and also for those of you that are interested in joining and becoming members, we can sign you up to become members, or we can sign you up for our newsletter. Thank you.
On this eve of Juneteenth, on this Father's Day, may the strength in your heart, may the goodness that is you be a benediction for the world. May it be so.
Well, there goes my urn. Please join me as we extinguish our chalice. These chalice extinguishing words are printed in the order of service and also projected. We extinguish the light of this chalice, but not the light in our hearts. Until we meet again, may the warmth of our community carry you.